Questions with Bud Bryan. This is my All Detroit series, so it means a lot to me to speak to somebody who has a love for the city of Detroit as I do. So most people would assume that because you are who you are now, that you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth or something like that. You know, people don't understand the story behind the stories. So, you know, most of us have inspirational situations or adversities that we face, or we see our parents face in our youth that takes us on a different path, gives us the drive or the inspiration. What type of things or struggles in your life that you saw at an early age that motivated you?
My parents moved to northern Michigan during the Depression because they had no money. And they wanted to eat.
Right,
so we
no
ended
silver
up on
spoons.
no silver spoons. We ended up on a little 40-acre farm and grew our own food. And even there, we were always the poorest family.
Right. Wow.
So, and I guess I didn't feel like I deserved more. I just understood what the circumstances were, and that's what you did. And I went to my little two-room schoolhouse.
Two-room schoolhouse.
A little two-room schoolhouse, and we left there and went down to the Flint area when I was in the 7th grade.
Okay.
And being a farm boy,
going
in the 7th grade and going to the city, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
I was a lot stronger than the other kids because I was haying and I was milking cows and I was doing farm work 365 days a year.
Yeah, and they're doing nothing but playing
around
outside.
The cows do not take a day off. Right? They just
365.
Yeah, 365. So every time you talk about bullying, every time I would come out of school, and the school I was in, the high school, was 7 through 12.
Oh, wow.
So you as a little old 7th grader are there with kids that are in 11th and 12th grade. So every day I'd get out of school, it'd be another fight.
Oh, goodness.
And, you talk about bullying and everybody talks about that today. And I always won. And I always hated it.
Yeah.
I hated to fight.
Right.
So my family, originally being from Detroit, my mother graduated from Northern High School.
Oh, my sister graduated.
Is that right? Yeah. My dad graduated from Hazel Park High.
Oh, okay.
And I think I always saw people who were getting more out of life than we were. And for some reason, I decided that I wanted to go to college. I was the first one in my family, the history of my family, to go to college. Yep.
Wow.
So I went off to Western Michigan, and I wanted to be a school teacher.
Western Michigan.
Yeah, Western Michigan. The WMU Broncos.
Yeah, the Broncos.
Yeah. So I got my secondary education degree in English, major in English, and minor in speech and psychology, and I went to work teaching school in Walled Lake.
Wow.
So, and was content, I thought, for the rest of my life I was going to teach school, because I loved it.
Really? Yeah, I can see that.
I loved teaching. I loved the kids. I think the kids really liked me, and I think they felt that they were actually learning something.
Right,
so,
which is a great thing.
Yeah. So I think it was certainly and I didn't like the farm. I never liked the farm.
Yeah.
I always wanted to be a city guy, I just thought that was cool. So my motivation was to get out of that and do something else. I didn't want to go, and my big event was go deer hunting in November. I didn't want to, that was just not what I wanted to do. So it was, how do I escape this world and get into a world that I think is going to be a lot more challenging and a lot more exciting for me. So.
Okay. Well, that's good.
So it certainly was not a silver spoon.
Easy.
No, and it wasn't easy.
Was not easy. So
No.
what made you go from teaching to business?
Well, at the time, I signed my teaching contract in 1967
Okay.
for $5,640 a year.
Are you serious?
That was a year.
$5,600.
$5,640.
And they still don't pay them enough today.
No.
Okay, go ahead.
And my supervising teacher in Hastings, which is between Kalamazoo and Lansing, was in her 5th year, and she was making $500 less than I was that I signed my first contract.
What?
It's just amazing.
Wow.
So when you taught school then, you knew you had to do something else.
Right.
So in the summertime I was laying sod. One of the other teachers had a little kind of a business, landscaping business.
Okay.
I was laying sod. And they would also hire the teachers in the summertime to do maintenance on the building. So I was painting the schools and that kind of stuff.
Wow.
And then I had the guy that was another English teacher, his next door neighbor was a guy that worked at Helm, H-E-L-M, in Detroit, over on the boulevard, and East Grand Boulevard in St. Aubin.
I remember that.
And I decided I was going to go to work there in the summertime.
Okay.
And I was getting all kinds of overtime. It was just great.
Money was great.
Money was great. And they offered me a job at the end of my first year, and I said, no, I want to teach school.
Right.
So I taught, and then I went back, and they said, we're going to offer you a job again. And I said, no. And they said, I was going to teach school. And the third summer I came, they said, this is the last time. So you need to decide. And I said, well, if I go, and I'm okay with this, if I leave teaching, because now I'm thinking they're going to start me at $10,000 a year.
Right.
I said, I'm going to probably get drafted because I'll lose my occupational deferment, but that's okay. Other people have to go to Vietnam, I'll go to Vietnam. And they said, well, that's up to you. So I left teaching, went to Helm, was immediately reclassified by the selective immediately, and and received my draft notification within 2 weeks.
Are you serious?
I'm serious.
Oh my gosh.
And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they decided that it made sense to have a lottery. So it was the first year of the lottery.
Wow.
And they were going to draw the first 244 birthdays. I remember that distinctly.
Really?
244 birthdays, and they were all going into the Army. Well, I was drawn 361st.
Oh my gosh.
So that's the only thing that kept me out of the service. And so I was at Helm for 13 years.
13 years. Summer job. Started.
And then a summer job, and then I became their top sales guy. And I was talking to one of the owners, Ron Roshlow, and he was kind of a jerk, but that's all right. I could get along with most people.
Right.
And I could, remember those old magic slates where you could draw, and then you pull
it
up the
straight,
and then it's
erase. Yep.
I would kind of let people write on me what they wanted me to be.
Right.
And then when I'd go to the next person, I'd pull it up and let them
I
write.
like that.
Yeah, it's kind of the way I think sales guys that are successful can kind of do that. And I said to Ron, I'm 35 years old. I'm the top sales guy now. I like it here. What's my future? And he said, well, Bud, I'll tell you. You're a peddler, and I'm an owner. You'll always be a peddler, and I'll always be an owner.
Wow.
So I said, okay, he's got the right to do that.
Right.
I didn't say I was going to actively look for something else, but if something came up, I was going to potentially pursue it. And I got the call from Bill McNaughton, who was at this little company, D.W. Hacker, which then became BUDCO, and he said, if you don't come over here, we're going to go out of business. So I took a 50% pay cut.
50% pay cut.
50% pay cut.
Wow. You believed in it though?
I did.
And also because of the response of the...
Yeah, I just knew that I wasn't going to be happy working someplace where at 35 years old, is that all there is?
That's it, right.
Is this it?
Right.
So, and that leads me to the, the thing, it's not really a quote, but one of the questions I think you asked.
Yeah.
Jeff Sierra, who you know, Tony Nader.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know
I
Tony.
don't know him, but I know I've heard of him.
Well, both of them are bald. And you'd say to them, so, what are you doing with your hair? And they said, and both of them would always say the same thing.
What?
Hair is overrated. So I always thought, what's overrated? Well, how much you paid for your house, how much you make,
right?
How much, what your career goals are, when did you pay your house off, yada, yada, yada. And I realized that all of that stuff really was overrated. And the one thing that wasn't was the freedom to choose, I think, has been kind of my philosophy. And you said, were you uncomfortable or nervous about making a decision?
Making that choice of...
And I really wasn't. And I don't know if it was because I just wasn't bright enough to figure out I should be.
You should be,
or I just, it was like, well, it's time for the next opportunity, next step. So I am so thankful that I have had the freedom to choose. My dad never had the freedom to choose.